Hey guys, it's Zero, back with another video. And today, we're going to be watching two different horror shorts animated stories. One will be by Dark Ace Animations. Hold on. Let me make sure. Okay. One will be by Dark Ace Animations. And the other one will be by Horror Shorts Park. Some good ideas. Story 1, narrated by Nighttime Spooks.
Years ago, I worked at Target. I've had many jobs since then, but one of the creepiest things that's happened to me came in my time there. So, I was still fairly new to the job. I should also mention that I was really young when I worked at Target. I was 17 years old, and it was literally the second job that I ever had. I lived with my parents and was in high school at the time. So, I'd been working there for maybe 2 or 3 months. I was a cashier, and one night I worked until 9:45 p.m. After getting off, I left Target and was walking in the parking lot to my car. Like, right as I was leaving, I noticed this one guy who looked...
Can we just talk about how good the animation is? Like, it's not like every other animation where it's like... Let's say this. You have a lot of 3D... I hope I said that right. 3D, like, stuff. Like, this stuff back here, like, it looks real. The cards, like, everything. I just love this so much.
A little older than I was. He was wearing a red shirt and khakis, and I realized that he was probably a new coworker. I had never seen him before, but Target is a large store and is always getting new workers. I remember that the guy said hi to me, and I said hi back to him. He then asked me if I was just getting off, and when I said yes, he told me that he was as well. I asked if he was new, and he said yes, he had just recently started. He asked me how my shift had gone, and after I told him about it, I asked him what he did. I hadn't noticed him at the registers, so I figured that he wasn't a cashier. He told me that he did a little bit of everything, and then said that he had been all over the place that night. Looking back, that's kind of an odd answer, but I didn't really think much of it at the time. As we talked, we were both walking out in the parking lot towards our cars.
I'm sorry. I'm someone who does pause a lot, so if you don't like that, that's my bad. But, do you see the difference? That man is not no employee. He don't have the logo. He don't have the name tag. He just got a red shirt on. Then you say you're a cashier and you were all over the place. Now that can happen, but I don't believe him.
Then I remember that he asked me where I lived. I told him the basic general area, referencing a business that was pretty close to my house and right outside of my neighborhood. I remember that he said, "Nice, me too." I had not recognized him as having gone to my school or anything, but I guess it was possible he went to another school. I didn't bother to ask him what school he went to though, because just about then I arrived at my car. So I told him to have a good night and I was leaving now. The guy was nice and he said good night and kept walking. After I got in my car, I saw him get into a car that was parked adjacent to mine. I briefly looked at my phone like I normally did before leaving. The other guy seemed to do the same thing. Then I left. I began driving home, and I noticed that the guy started driving behind me. However, I thought nothing of it at all. He said that he lived right by me, so obviously he would be driving the same way. It took about 10 minutes to get back, and when I approached my neighborhood, the guy was still following me. As I turned off for the road right before my neighborhood, I remember seeing the guy keep going straight. I figured that's where he lived in that area, and I kept going. Now, this road that I was on, like I said, is right before my street. It's a very long road that also has a very low speed limit. So I was slowly making my way down, and after a while, I noticed a car pull onto the road. We were the only 2 cars on the road at this time, and the headlights looked the same as my coworker. I thought that it couldn't be though. I kept going and then turned onto my street. I drove to my house, which was not that far down. I parked in the driveway and then got out. In that time, I didn't see anything. However, right after getting inside, I noticed headlights in the street. I looked out and saw the same car that my coworker was driving down the street very slowly. I literally ducked down from the window, even though the chance of him looking into the house were slim. I really thought it was suspicious now what he was doing. We had lived on this street my whole life, and I had never seen this guy before. I was confident that he didn't live here. That made me suspicious that he had been following me. I'm not sure if he noticed my car in the driveway or not. The rest of the night, I didn't see the guy, and I worked at Target for about 3 months after that. That entire time that I worked there, I never saw the guy again. I realized months later how strange that whole ordeal was. I don't think the guy worked at Target at all. I think he was just pretending to, and then he claimed to live in my neighborhood so that he could follow me home. Sure, maybe it was all a coincidence, but I really feel like it wasn't. I'm just glad nothing bad ever happened.
A coincidence, my bum bum. Literally, I was just telling y'all, that man does not work at Target. And then you have the big idea to tell him where you live. Not that she said the exact place, but you still told him the general location. Like, you let him follow you? Oh no. Story 2, narrated by Nighttime Spooks.
My girlfriend works at Target, and sometimes I pick her up from work. Normally she drives herself, but I remember that a few months ago her car was in the shop for several days. So I agreed to pick her up from work at Target. She was supposed to get off of work at 10 p.m., which is the time that they close. I arrived a little bit early at probably about 9:50 or so. I texted my girlfriend letting her know that I was there, and she texted me saying that she just had to finish a few things and would be out. So I parked towards the back of the parking lot and in a random space. The store was closing soon, so the parking lot was almost empty. There were cars scattered all over, which I assumed to mostly be just employees. After parking, I took out my phone and started watching random YouTube videos while I waited. I remember that at one point, I noticed something out of the corner of my eye, and I looked up. There was a woman walking through the parking lot a long ways away. I couldn't tell where she had come from, because it didn't look like she had just left the Target store. The woman appeared to just kind of be walking around. She was also going pretty slowly, and she was wearing short sleeves and no jacket, even though it was almost freezing outside. It seemed odd to me, so I watched her for a little longer. She walked a little ways, and it didn't really seem like she was going anywhere in particular, just kind of almost pacing around. I found it a little bit odd, but I paid my attention back to my phone after a short time. Sometime later, though, when it was nearly 10 o'clock, I looked over to the store to see if my girlfriend was leaving. She was not, and then I looked around and noticed that the woman was now in another place. She was still walking around, and I looked back to my phone again. Soon it was 10 p.m. My girlfriend still had not left, but I expected her to at any moment. I looked around again. This time, though, I noticed...
That's creepy. Oh my god. Wait. I paused that as such a weird... Look at how she's looking at him, yo. Ah! No. One, I would have literally, if my significant other was in the store, never came out, what I'm doing, I'm running into that store. But at that point, now, that logic doesn't work because you don't know what this creepy lady wants from you. Like, no. Mm-mm.
The one lady who had been walking around the parking lot was behind me and pretty close to my car. My heart sank as I saw her walking in my direction. My car had been running the whole time because it was cold and I had the heat on. The woman then approached my passenger side door. She came up to the window and looked in and then started to knock on it. I was about to roll down the window just a crack to see what it was that she wanted, but the lady's knock on the window quickly turned into a bang. She was knocking harder and harder. I did not roll the window down. Soon the lady was pretty much pounding on the window as hard as she could. At that point, I put my car into reverse and backed up. She started to chase after me as I did so. I kept going and moved to the left. Then I put my car into drive and quickly went away. The woman briefly chased after me but was not able to keep up. I went to the front Target doors hoping that my girlfriend would just happen to be leaving, but she was not there. So I drove around the parking lot and then parked at the complete far opposite end to where I had been before. I did not see the crazy lady anywhere. After I parked there,
Y'all see this animation? Y'all see this animation? Look.
I texted my girlfriend, telling her about the woman who tried to break my window. My girlfriend still hadn't left, and I figured that she was finishing whatever it was she had to do before she would leave. I kept sitting there, but then, seemingly out of nowhere, the crazy woman appeared again. She came charging at me. I was quick to put my car into reverse and back away from the spot. This time, I was able to get away from her before she reached me. I drove around the parking lot to the other side again, and this time I noticed my girlfriend leaving. She was finally out of Target, and I quickly drove over and let her in the car. Then we left the parking lot and got out of there. My girlfriend seemed to think the story of the lady was quite funny. To me, though, it was actually very creepy. I'm not sure if the lady was on drugs or what. That would be my best guess. But why she kept coming after me, I have no idea.
Story 3, narrated by Nighttime Sports.
One Saturday morning a few years ago, I went shopping at Target. That was kind of my routine. I would go shopping every Saturday morning at about 8 or 9 o'clock and get groceries and the things that I needed for the week. I would usually get most of the same things, and at that time the store was generally not busy yet. So on this particular Saturday morning, it was like any other. I drove to Target, which was only like 5 minutes away, went inside and started shopping. Like usual, the store was not that busy. I was inside for maybe 15 or 20 minutes getting everything that I needed. Then I checked out and left. I walked back to my car in the parking lot, got inside, and drove home. Nothing about the experience stood out to me in any way. However, several hours after arriving back home, something strange happened. I got this notification on my phone from Instagram. It said somebody had tagged me in their post. However, the username was one that I had never heard of before. It was like random words and then numbers that didn't really make sense. I looked at the post, and it was a few slides of pictures and then a video. They were all of me.
Yeah, no. No. That is stalking. And now it's harassment because you decided to show me you were stalking me. You were stalking and harassing me. No. I would never, ever go to the store alone again. No. So many pictures of her.
At Target earlier that morning. A few were of me inside the store. None were really that great of quality, and I was partly obstructed by an aisle in some of them, so this person may have sort of been hiding. Then there was a video of me walking in the parking lot to my car. The video appeared to have been taken from inside another vehicle and slightly zoomed in. When I saw this, I instantly felt very creeped out. I did not know who had done this or why. I looked at the user and it was their only post. They were not following anybody and had 0 followers. It was like they created their account just to post that. I didn't know what to do. Later on, I wanted to figure it out, so I went back to Instagram, but it was all gone. The post and user and everything had been deleted. I was so creeped out. I never ended up finding out who did it or why. After that, I changed my routine for a while. Whoever did that could have known that I shopped at Target at around the same time every Saturday morning, and I hadn't noticed anything strange because they seemed to have been sort of hiding. It's fairly easy to film someone with a phone and not look too suspicious. I'm just glad that nothing else creepy happened after that. Still, I wonder about it sometimes who did it.
Story 4, narrated by...
Years ago, I worked at Target for a little while. I worked in the clothing department, and it was normally pretty easy. Things wouldn't get busy there like they normally would in grocery, so it was less hectic. I actually started in the grocery department when I was at Target, and then after about a month, I moved to the clothes. Very frequently, I would work closing shifts. We closed at 10 p.m., so it wouldn't be incredibly late, and I didn't mind too much. For the last few hours of being open, things were generally pretty quiet too. On this night in particular, I had some things to organize. I heard the announcements about us closing during the last bit of time that we were open. All the guests that were there made their way to the checkouts and left. I still had some things to do though, so after closing, I figured I would be leaving at about 10:15. So obviously, the clothing section at Target is pretty large, and it takes up a good amount of the store. Shortly after close, I was making my way to another area when I noticed something. There was an area with a wall that had clothes hanging on it with hangers so they would be displayed. At the base of the wall next to it, there was a...
Who is you? Yo. What the flip? And then he's just staring with a little smirk on his face.
person laying on the ground. They were mostly obstructed, and I'm surprised that I even noticed them. However, it looked like they were trying to hide. I walked over and asked what they were doing. Then, after a few seconds, they moved. After they got up, I saw that it was a man. He was pretty short and thin and wearing a blue shirt. Very quickly, he walked around the corner behind the display wall. I walked around to see where he went, but he was walking quickly away from me at that point. I called out to him saying that we were closed, but he did not respond. At that point, I took out my walkie and I radioed in that there was a customer still inside of the store, and I gave his description. He was going away from me, and I started to try to walk after him at that point. Moments later, I saw him. He was now standing right in the middle of one of the main...
Let me make sure that... I'm sorry. Let me make sure the camera is... Oh. Okay. Alright, the camera's good.
walkways in Target. He was just standing there and staring at me. The guy honestly made me nervous. He hadn't said anything at all, and he was acting very strange. I got within maybe 50 feet of him, and then he started to walk in my direction very slowly. I asked him what he was doing, but he didn't answer me. As he got closer, I backed away. I didn't know what this guy was doing. He continued to head towards me at about the same pace. It was really odd. I quickly turned and went away from there to find another coworker. A short time later, I found Monique, who worked nearby. She was walking towards the clothing department and had heard what I reported. I told her the basics of what was going on. However, we did not see the man when we went back to the spot where he had been. Another coworker, Dan, was also on his way over. We searched a little bit of the immediate area, but did not find the guy. However, when the three of us were together, about 2 minutes after that, the man came into view again. This time, he was coming from the sporting goods aisle and was holding a t-ball bat in his hands. We were afraid that he was...
You mean to tell me, in all that time that he was backing up away from you, and everyone and these two other people heard what you said, and no one walked up or no one came to you until you had to go find someone, and you allowed the man to not only leave your sight when he didn't have a weapon, which it's scary because, you know, as a female, you do not want to be alone with anyone, not just males, but anyone, because you don't know what they can do. But you let him go get a bat, or what they say it was.
However, when the three of us were together, about 2 minutes after that, the man came into view again. This time, he was coming from the sporting goods aisle and was holding a t-ball bat in his hand.
He has a t-ball bat. And this is Target. And Target has weapons. And you're lucky he got a bat. But this is so ridiculous. You allow the man to get away and go get a weapon. Then you start handing out some pepper spray.
We were afraid that he was going to use it as a weapon, so we didn't get too close to him. The man calmly walked towards us, but did not say a word, and he didn't answer any of our questions or commands for him to leave the store. We figured that we had to call the police at that point. So us team members left the sales floor, and we went into the employees-only area at the front of the store and locked ourselves in. Then we reported the man to the police. All the other employees soon joined us there to get away from the man. The cops got there, went inside, and arrested...
How many employees were there? You have 3 people and 1 guy with a bat. Now, yes, one of y'all are going to definitely get hurt. Y'all are gonna get hit. But you're telling me we couldn't have done a horror movie thing where one runs and then the other two attack them from behind? Nothing. And y'all said there were more staff that came? So you're telling me if all these people and no one tried to get him away or take him down, we just locked ourselves? Well, they probably don't get paid enough to deal with that, which I understand, because, well, yeah, they don't get paid enough to deal with that type of stuff.
The man a short time later. We were glad that he was gone and that nobody was harmed. Thankfully, he didn't do any damage to the store either. I'm not entirely sure what his exact plan was, but that was my craziest experience from working at Target.
Our official merch store is finally here. If you want to support more of our channel, check out our merch shop. The link is in the description down below. See you on the next video.
Buy the merch. I should buy the merch too. Alright. Now, I was going to watch this one, but let's think. Let's see. Let's find another Dr. Ace video instead, because the animation is so peak. I mean, I love the animation. It is amazing, especially seeing all the attention to detail. Let's find one that's not super duper 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 long. Let's see. Do the corner store. I was gonna do the cozy apartment. We'll do that in another video if that is what y'all would like. But let's do this one. Let's do this one. Story 1. Narrated by Scared Stiff.
When I was 20, I was working at my local CVS part-time while I was going to college for a degree that I still don't use. The job was pretty simple. I came into the store around 2 p.m. and then left when the store closed, which at the time was 11 p.m. I was a young, naive guy back then, but I was a good worker and never called into work. So my boss typically left me alone at night so he could head home early, leaving me the only person in the store. It sucked, but at the same time, it was pretty chill, because I was able to listen to music as I zoned the shelves and made sure the store looked okay for the morning shift the next day. It was simple, easy money. One night, around Halloween time, I was stocking the shelves when a woman walked into the store. Let me tell you, this girl...
Where's her clothes? Girl, it's nighttime. It's cold. It's cold, and you don't know what type of creeps is out there, and you all alone. No, girl. Where's your clothes?
Was beautiful, and when I tried greeting and welcoming her into the store, I got my words backward and sounded like a complete idiot. The woman didn't laugh at me like I thought she would, and smiled at my attempt to talk to her. She asked for help looking for a certain candy I knew we didn't have, but I still took her to the aisle with all the candy, so I could just talk to her a bit longer. Not only was this girl beautiful, but she was also funny and smart. We had a conversation that lasted over 10 minutes before I admitted we didn't have what she was looking for, but she told me it wasn't a big deal. She then asked about my job and if I liked it. Asked if I usually worked nights by myself when the store usually closed, when my boss ditched me for the day, and if I enjoyed working here. I answered her truthfully and honestly, just happy that a woman as pretty as her was...
don't be like the simp. There are certain questions people will ask you, and even if they're the most prettiest person this world has ever seen, do not give away all of your information just because you like her. Same for the females. Do not give away all your information just because you think someone is pretty. What do you mean? She's asking you, when do you get ditched? When are you alone? Really? Okay.
Even showing an interest in my life. She asked if the job included going to the bank with the money from the tills every night, which I thought was a weird question, but she quickly told me the reason behind her question. She wanted to apply to the store and needed to know if we were required to take the till to the bank because she currently didn't have a car to do so. She wanted to make sure the job was worth applying to before she took the jump and tried. I assured her she didn't need a car to work the night shift and that we put the money in a safe in the back, but only after the store was closed for the night and all the customers were gone. She thanked me for helping her look for the candy and kissed me on the cheek, which had me smiling like the idiot I was. Like I said, I was naive and a man. We suck at picking up signs from girls, and that includes red flags. The next day, I'm still thinking of that girl as I'm getting ready to close the store when the chime of the front door goes off, and I sighed, knowing I was going to have to tell whoever had come in that we were closing in 5 minutes, which would probably earn me a snappy reply from a Karen. I walked towards the registers and said, "Hey, I'm sorry, but we're about to close." But my rehearsed words came to a halt when I saw 2 guys in ski masks with guns in their hands. I've seen enough movies and TV shows to know I was being robbed. The guys quickly told me to open the registers and empty them into a bag that they threw at me. I tried telling them that we didn't have money in the registers, that we emptied them half an hour before the store closed, but they told me they knew I was lying, and that if I didn't give them the money, they would start shooting and take it themselves. I was shocked that they knew I was lying, but didn't question it further as I put all the money into the bags. After they had their money, the guys ran out of the store with the bags of money, and I called my boss to tell him what happened. The police were called, and when they asked me if I told anyone that the registers weren't emptied until the store was closed, I started to tell them I would never disclose information like that to someone. But then, I remembered.
Really?
That woman, the one that wanted to apply to the store. I told her the night before. Ashamed, I told the police about the girl who came in the night before, and all the personal questions she asked, pretending she was interested in working at the store. The police then told me that this group who robbed me worked with a girl who went into a store, usually an empty one without many workers, and charmed information out of people before having her friends rob the place a few days later with the information she gathered. My boss filed a report, and then the police spent the next several minutes reprimanding me for talking to strangers about personal details. I was embarrassed, but I deserved it. I was stupid and helped strangers rob my store because I thought a girl was cute. My boss didn't fire me, but I was so scared after getting robbed that I quit the job soon after. I'm happy to report I'm not as naive anymore, but the fear that I still feel after being robbed at gunpoint, yeah, that remains. Ever heard the term retail hell? It's the perfect description. Retail is, for all intents and purposes, hell. I used to work in a big one as a manager. I can't disclose exactly which one, so this won't trace back to me, but let's just say it's one of the bigger ones. And the reason it's so bad is the customers. They're the problem, full stop. There were days where I wanted to bring a Glock to work with me and just end them, but I was still somewhat sane enough to contain myself. I have a lot of stories from that time, but the worst one is the last one. A homeless man I later learned was named Frederick. It was late, and I was already on my way out when Frederick came in with a purpose. He wanted to steal, and he wasn't shy about it. He grabbed a bunch of shit, took it to the register, and had our lovely cashier scan 2 cans of Pringles and nothing else. He insisted that he was only going to pay for the Pringles and that he was taking everything else with him free of charge. Now, when this altercation began, I was already in the parking lot getting in my car. I was dead tired, but Hannah, our cashier, insisted on having someone go and grab me so I could help her out. So, there I went, ready to kick some ass. Frederick smelled. He smelled bad, but he didn't look that terrible. His hair wasn't shaggy and his clothes weren't too torn. He could almost pass for a normal dude if he didn't have a bunch of track marks on his arms. He wasn't my first druggie, and I was sure he wasn't going to be the last, but nothing could have prepared me for what came next. I greeted Frederick. At that point, things had escalated a bit, and I wanted to calm him down, but he didn't even look at me. He just kept pointing his bony finger at Hannah and screaming about how our prices were unfair and paying for the Pringles was more than enough. Honestly, I should have just called the cops to have him kicked the fuck out, but for some reason I didn't. Instead, I tried gently touching him on the shoulder so he'd notice me. "Sir, please calm down."
Oh!
I didn't even finish the goddamn phrase. This guy just whipped around and hit me right in the jaw. No warning, no
That's why
nothing.
we don't touch
Just a
people.
punch and a "Don't touch me," along with some foul language and name-calling in the most monotone, empty voice I've ever heard. I fell backwards, but didn't react in any way. Dude hit like a truck, but I wasn't about to show him that I felt it. Bunch of guys rushed after him, other customers and a security guard. They kicked him out. He didn't say anything after that. He just had a blank look on his face as he stared at me. After that, Frederick was there every night. He was banned from the store, but there was nothing we could do about him staring from the other side of the sidewalk. He would yell at people, scream about how we owed him his Pringles, and a bunch of other stuff. The cops would come and take him away, but he always came back, never taking him more than a week. After about 3 months of this, I had enough. I took a can of Pringles, and I took it to him. I had a knife on me just in case, but I was oh so sure that he wouldn't try to attack me again. As soon as he saw me crossing the street, he got really quiet. That same blank look he gave when he hit me the first time. "I don't want nothing to do with you," he said, with that same empty voice from when he punched me. "You sure? Don't you want your Pringles?" I said with a smirk on my face. By now, I despised this guy, but I was willing to play nice to get rid of him. I was only 2 steps away from him when he started shaking a bit. "You don't get to make it okay," he said, his voice filling up with pure hatred. "It's your fault! Why are you people doing this to us?" He started yelling, and I just blanked. I had no idea what he was talking about.
It's 'cause you
I
black.
started slowly turning while saying, "Okay, man, chill, I'm going." And then he yelled, "It's your fault! Your fucking fault!" and jumped me, knife in hand. No real warning, no nothing. He just wanted me dead. Things got blurry after that. I punched and kicked and hit him over the head with the goddamn Pringles can while he stabbed me. 3 times, all in the abdominal region. I passed out, and he ran. I got lucky. Really lucky. I almost bled to death. Police identified Frederick, but they never caught up with him. I quit my job as soon as I woke up, and that would have been the end of that. But Frederick kept showing up there. He knew I survived, and he kept showing up there waiting for me. Never for long, just a couple of minutes. Didn't even wait for police to show up or anything. Somewhere out there, a pissed-off customer thinks I did something to him and his, wanting to kill me. Thank the Lord I don't work retail anymore.
This is the last story. Story 3 by Scared
I've been working in
Stiff.
retail for various outlets and large supermarket chains for over 20 years, and I have to say the single creepiest thing I've ever experienced during all that time was 1722. Now obviously I know most of you are thinking, 1720 what now? So let me explain. It wasn't a big thing, not an incident that would make the national news or even the local papers, but it was enough to freak me and everyone working at that store out enough that most of us quit within a month of it first happening. I won't mention the name of the supermarket chain I was working for at the time, other than to say that it's one of the big ones, and that a lot of its stores are now open 24 hours a day. It was during one of these evening shifts that the 1722 thing happened. When the 24-hour opening was first introduced, the number of people visiting our town was quite high. Shift workers, people with kids, or those who were just generally night owls would come in and lazily push around their trolleys at 3 a.m., while the majority of the staff working were busy restocking shelves for the far busier day shifts. With less customers, things changed. As the months went on, the number of nighttime visitors began to dwindle, and the place took on that oddly menacing quality you get in places that are usually full of life, but are now not. The company saved money by only half lighting the place. Suddenly, the shadows were longer, and the light took on an eerie, flickering yellow tone.
I keep dropping my mic. Do y'all see the amount of detail that Dark Ace has put into this video? This is what I mean by 3D. These people are 3D, yo. 3D. I love it. I love it.
That always made me think of hospitals and sick people. The reduced light meant that the few customers who did turn up walked even more slowly, in a sort of half-shuffling daze, and for whatever reason as the months went on, the staff became more and more hushed. Whereas, at the start, you would have really found little difference between the day and night in the store, except perhaps for the fact that there were less people. Over time, the place became quiet and muted at night, as if the staff subconsciously knew that they should whisper so as not to wake people who were not there. It was in the midst of a hush like this, while I was sitting, half dozing at one of the registers, waiting for the few customers to approach and ring up their items, that the tannoy suddenly crackled into life. Used almost every few minutes during the day, it was very rare for the tannoy, the internal broadcast system for the store, to be operated at night. Usually when it did burst into life, it was to say something stupid like, "Tom to the cashier's desk," or "Clean up on aisle 2. This night, though, it said only one thing: 1722. Then it went dead again. The moment lasted less than 5 seconds, but it was enough to make everyone in the place, staff and customers alike, stop dead and look at one another. Unlike in the daytime when the voices over the tannoy were disingenuously bright and cheery, especially when addressing customers to remind them of offers, this voice was, well, in a word, awful. It seemed somehow disembodied, as if it were speaking through a mouth not attached to the rest of the body. The voice was male, and had a rough, gravelly quality to it that made it sound like it was being forced or dragged out of the speaker in some way. It was a hoarse, almost whisper, and quite frankly, it made no sense. After a few minutes of chatter amongst staff members, work resumed as normal. An hour later, though, the same thing happened. The same voice over the tannoy, the same rasping, strangulated sound, and the same message. 1722. This continued for a week. At first, we all thought it was a prank. One of the younger employees risking a disciplinary note in his file by using the tannoy inappropriately and winding up the rest of his colleagues. What freaked us all out, however, was when our manager, Arnold, told us that the CCTV showed the tannoy going off by itself. Nobody was close to it. No one in the immediate vicinity. It was malfunctioning somehow and broadcasting this message. 1722. On the 7th night that this week...
That's a dead person. That is a dead person who probably died in the store and now wants to let us know about something about 1722 people. Keep it in your brains.
Weird message was played, the frequency was upped. Instead of every hour, the voice came every half hour, and then every 15 minutes. It's hard to explain to someone who wasn't in the place at the time, but there was something distinctly menacing about that voice. Something that sounded hostile or aggressive, as if the person were spitting the numbers at us as a rebuke or perhaps as a warning. The following day, in the afternoon shift, 60% of the staff called in sick. Not because there had been some kind of spooky disease outbreak linked to the voice, but because, as most of them admitted later, they were scared that the voice was a warning. They didn't want to be in the place at 17:22 in the afternoon. "What if it's a warning?" one colleague asked. "What if there's going to be an active shooter at that time? An earthquake or some kind of gas explosion that goes off at exactly 22 minutes past 5? Over the next month, staffing for the afternoon shifts became harder and harder. People are superstitious by nature, and even if they were not to start with, hearing that voice would soon make you believe. Eventually, the issue got so bad that the company had to start offering double time for afternoon shifts, a step we all refer to as danger money. Of course, there were others with even more outlandish explanations. Old Jack, a guy I worked with on the night shift, was convinced that the voice was that of Jim Lemon, a local murderer who had been executed by hanging around a quarter mile from where the store now stood in, you guessed it, 1722. A few of the more scientifically minded folks tried to explain the incidents away, saying that it was probably the communication system picking up radio waves and signals from another nearby radio broadcasting on a similar bandwidth, or something like that. Why that other broadcast would simply be repeating the same numbers over and over